All right. So I just spent all day watching Power Rangers Cosmic Fury. Was it good? Was it good? I'll say yeah, it was good. Was it great? No. No, I wouldn't say it was great. It's weird. It kind of felt like a 3 episode parter in most other seasons that got taken to 10. But I guess it's more of like, I would say it combines like a 2-parter premiere and like a 3-parter finale and just stretches them out. This is going to be a real ramble video. I just saw it. Everything's real fresh in my head. I'm going to be bouncing around. I might even work my way backwards. Because firstly, I thought that this was going to be the final thing we saw in this continuity. But then the way it ended, I don't know if that's true. And I'm starting to think, let me double check that this is all we're getting from Cosmic Fury. Yeah, so this is it. But then the whole Zordon stuff at the end, and Billy wanting to know more, it being set up, Billy looking for Zordon in the Once and Always one, and then getting confirmation that Zordon is still out there, in a way, I'm like, okay, we have to be getting more in this continuity, right? Especially with Billy. David Yost kind of taking over Jason David Frank, may he rest in peace, as like the central figure in Power Rangers. This is very interesting. And I hope this isn't the last thing we get, because this felt more like a good send-off for the Dino Fury Cosmic Fury team and all of their characters than it did Power Rangers as a whole. Because we get to see a lot of the Power Rangers, Dino Fury Rangers themselves in the supporting cast with Javi and Izzy's parents. We get to see Pop again. We get to see Tarek fucking throw down again. You got to remember that he wasn't brainwashed. He wasn't anything. It was his full state of mind when he was Void Knight. And he was able to give a team of 6 Rangers work. Okay? So he was out there doing his thing, which was great. It just felt more like a send-off to them than Rangers as a whole. So I'm not even more hoping that this isn't it. When they were going to fight Zed for the final time, and Billy says something about like maybe waiting because maybe they could get help from other Ranger teams, I was like, oh, is that what they're gonna do? Are we gonna see like Legendary Battle 2.0 with all these Ranger teams converging and that being the send-off to all of them? And then that didn't happen. But speaking of Zed, I was super excited when we saw Morphin Master Zed. I was like, oh my god, I just saw Ranger Zed in the comics. Looked great. Are they going to do that here? And essentially they did. And I thought he looked great. His entrance as Morphin Master Zed, a little bit of the gravity, like the scale of it was taken back a little bit when they did some dumb jokes, some Marvel level humor when he draws the Z into the rock, and they're like, N? What's N for? And he's like, it's a Z. And they're all like, is it, if you look this way? And he's like, Barr. I was like, what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, it's more fair for Power Rangers. Power Rangers has always been truly geared towards kids. So it's like, whatever. Okay. Another thing that happened this season, they set it up in the premiere, which I talked about. I talked about the premiere by itself, the first episode all by itself. But with Javi's arm, I think they did it about as well as I probably would have expected and or wanted them to. Because it's Power Rangers, I wasn't expecting it to be some true sending Javi into a real depression that they depict and him coming out of it. It was more of like a scaled back version of that. He was very upset about it. He did have to come to terms with it. It didn't linger throughout the whole thing. It is something that he was able to cope with relatively quickly, but it still had emotional weight behind it, and him learning to adjust and still be able to do the things he loved before he lost the arm after losing it. I think they did actually handle that really well. It was something I was really worried about them doing, but I was afraid they were going to slap the arm on him, send him out, and everything would be fine. But there was a bit of a learning curve there with the arm, which I really did appreciate. I did like that landing. Amelia as a full season Red Ranger, was she good? I know that this is no longer the Nickelodeon era of Power Rangers, but if I lump this in with the Nickelodeon era of Power Rangers, I would say she was pretty good. I did like Amelia as the Red Ranger. I thought it worked well. And seeing a female Red Ranger work shouldn't be a surprise for anybody. If you've seen Time Force, you've seen Jen, you know it could work there. You've seen Wild Force, you've seen Taylor, you know it could work. So we've seen strong females that could be Red Rangers before, even though they weren't. So seeing her here, and it's interesting that they let her be, I don't know how to say this, a more caring female leader, because the ones that we've seen in the past, Jen and Taylor, they're the more militaristic style leaders. They kind of are, they got a lot of macho-ness to them, even with, while still being feminine. But this time they let a feminine female character be the leader, which I thought worked really well. So I was kind of worried that maybe they would try to do too much of making a statement out of Amelia being the Red Ranger, but I think it worked. I think it worked really well. I was glad how everything was handled. So that landed pretty well for me. All of the Zords, I need that purple Dragon Zord because purple's my favorite color. I'm trying to think of purple Zords. The only one that I own right now is the from Dino Thunder, the little like fist boxing glove robot. I forgot which one it was, but it just goes da 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 da. I have that one. I need more purple Zords. So they need to be able to sell that one and let me cop it. But yeah, all the Zord stuff was great. Looked really good. For Power Rangers, it looked really good. Definitely wouldn't mind if they sold more of the Zords than just the base that they're selling right now. Zato, man. There so much happened with Zato, actually. I mean, he's pretty much out of it for the first couple episodes. I'm trying to think how long it took for them to get him. Maybe episode 3 is when they got him. Everything's still fresh and like everything. I watched it straight through, so some things are blending together. But they find him pretty quickly, and there was some weirdness going on about him, and I was afraid that they were doing like another Evil Ranger, which we'll get into, but maybe a sleeper agent Evil Ranger. But instead, Zato has a limited amount of magic. But Zato, being the good person that he is, and we've already seen his willingness to sacrifice himself with the end of Dino Fury. He uses that magic throughout this season to help people, eventually causing him to give up his life, his mortal life, which Ion ends up getting like sucked into the. I don't even know if that was the morphing grid, but something equivalent, something adjacent, in meeting Zordon, which I talked about earlier. But that scene was probably the most. I was like half paying attention at the time. I was still paying attention, but I was like on my phone or something, and I hear him say, like, I used to say, may the power protect you. I was like, what the fuck? Zordon? Okay. And then he didn't really play a factor in the end. So that meant that we can't be done with this continuity after what I saw here. I wonder if we get another movie to finish it. I don't know. David Yost is involved. That's all I know for sure. He's the only Ranger that I'm stamping. Whatever this next project is going to be involved. Maybe the Fury team is. Maybe some more MMPR characters are. Who knows? But we're not done yet. David Yost is going to be involved somehow. But yeah, then Zato becomes a Morphin Master himself, which was very interesting. And it does bring up questions of like, because I'm not entirely informed on the Morphin Master lore in the comics. I know that they were a group prior to becoming Morphin Masters. So we've seen mortals become Morphin Masters in the comics. I don't know if that's what it's like in the TV show because they are separate continuities. So it kind of makes me think that there is probably some overlap between the two, and that maybe all of those Morphin Masters themselves had been a Ranger team or had just been people beforehand. Very interesting. And back to the Evil Ranger bit, Ollie, for the majority of this, which I wasn't expecting, is evil. Brainwashed, but is evil. I thought it would be resolved like episode 3. Episode 1, everything gets established. Episode 2, they get their new power set. Episode 3, they free Ollie. But that is not the case. It's like episode 8, I want to say. Like I said, blending together. Everything's blending together. Episode 8, I feel like, is when Ollie got freed. I kind of like that they stretched it out. It was definitely not something I was expecting. And he ends up getting Zato's Morpher after Zato leaves. He passes into the morphing grid, allowing him to be able to morph. Because I saw 6, and we see Fern get one, and it's very interesting. And I was like, wait. I started to think. I was like, wait. Something's not adding up. How is Ollie going to be able to get one? He gets Zados. Very, very caught me off guard, very much so. But I didn't love Ollie as an Evil Ranger. I love the idea, but at no point was I looking at him as like a truly menacing character or figure. Some good scenes with Zed, though. I did enjoy Evil Ollie with Zed and their one-on-one conversations with Zed seemingly really being willing to take him under his wing, which was very interesting and cool to see. But it's just Ollie just never seemed truly evil, even when he was. It didn't pull it off very well. I'm guessing that, I don't know, if they made Javi evil, maybe it would have given him too much sex appeal, so they decided to go with Ollie instead. But very interesting, and it just didn't land quite as hard as I would have wanted. But speaking of evil turning back to good, we see Heckle in this, out of nowhere, doing some real espionage stuff with the I forgot the name, but like the squid influencer villain, gaining her trust. Very cool to see him back. I'm glad that we got to see him as a Ranger, something that was kind of teased in Dino Charge but never happened. So seeing that was great. And I would have liked to have seen more Ranger teams, because they talk about how they're all over the universe, all over the galaxy, all over Earth fighting Zed's forces, but we never see any full teams doing anything, which is fine. And the reason it's fine is because we get some more Ranger representation elsewhere, even though it's pretty much like MMPR and then like Nickelodeon on. Post MMPR and Disney era, we don't really see any of that representation in here. But we see Dino Charge represented with Heckle, Mick representing Ninja Steel. We have Billy with MMPR. I'm trying to think if I'm forgetting any. I don't think I am. We do see Beast Morphers representation with Grid Battle Force and their technology. But, no full Ranger team, seeing them work together. Would have liked that, but it's less. I care about it less, given that I really don't think this is the final thing we see of this continuity. I'm really starting to think maybe there's a movie. I kind of think there might be a movie in the works. On par with like Once and Always, not like the 2017 film quality, not that scale, but like a Once and Always type movie maybe. That's the final send-off to the continuity, which I think is fine. It'll probably be more MMPR focused, which I don't hate. I would like to see full Ranger timeline representation within it, but if we end it with what we started with, I can live with that. And then we would move on to the future and start building a new continuity. Maybe if down the line we can explore multiverse stuff and see the old continuity again, but baby steps here. I think Hasbro is going to work on making Power Rangers like a mainline property. I really hope. Maybe I'll get into some toy talk later. I've got some tiny ideas. It would be in this video, not its own. I'm trying to think what else is in here. Fern becoming Orange Ranger. I really liked the Solon aspect of it. Her getting her powers pretty much from Solon, the connection of them two, and just becoming the Solon Ranger was really cool. Seeing a main Orange Ranger finally is really neat. Fern as a character is just kind of interesting to me. She's just very there, and I was literally sitting there, I was like, who is writing Fern's lines? These are just like, they're not bad, and they're not delivered bad, but it's just like kind of corny at times. Big Yas girl, which is nothing wrong with that. There are people out there that are like that. They deserve representation. Power is always about representation, but just the way she talks was just, sometimes I'm just sitting there and I'm like, who is this? I'm trying to think of any lines off the top of my head. But it's just, I don't know. I wish they would have played up kind of maybe some of the conflict in the relationship between Izzy and Fern, and her maybe being more upset and worried about her being a Power Ranger. But I think overall it makes sense. And they give good reasoning of why Izzy's able to quickly kind of come to terms with it. She's like, you know what, you being this go-getter, this girl boss is one of the reasons I really like you. So I'm not going to lose sight of that. I'm going to embrace what you're doing now, joining me on this journey. So even though I probably would have preferred they play up the conflict, given the short time that this season was, it's probably a wise decision. And it also does, I guess it does make more sense character-wise for them to just kind of move right past it. Anything else? Anything else? Oh, I didn't even mention, we see Eltar. We see Eltar. We see Zordon's home planet. It's where Zed decides to, build up his base at, just as a big fuck you to Zordon, a big show of power and the turning of the tides there. Kind of cool to see, even though we see pan over shots of like a city in Eltar that doesn't look overly unique compared to other like alien planets and Earth itself. And then it's just his own base. So we don't get this full exploration of it. But overall, it was cool to see Eltar in some capacity. And we get some kind of continuity cleanup with the New Tech City line drop, with SPD supposedly to be taking place 2 years from now. How SPD comes to Earth and what capacity that gets built up within actual TV show continuity. Comics are a different thing. I know it's addressed there. There's like some addressing of it because there's like, okay, New Tech City is there. It's the refuge for all these aliens from this war with Zed, so that's why everybody's there. That's where SPD, the season, takes place in. But it's like, okay, there is still some problems of like, okay, because Sky's dad was an SPD Ranger who loses his life. That should have happened way back. So when does that happen? How is that happening? That's still kind of up in the air about what exactly SPD itself, its history on Earth is within TV show continuity. Comics, different thing, I think. But, yeah. So some slight addressing there, which was nice. I feel like that's all the main points. The best characters in this one were definitely Amelia, Javi. I mean, honestly, I feel like everybody did do a really good job. They did come to the table. Everyone was pretty represented pretty well because I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, Amelia did well in the leadership role. She really rocked Red very well. It was a great start. Great start of seeing a full season female Red Ranger. I don't think this is the last time we're going to see it. They've been kind of slow rolling female Red Ranger. They finally do it here. I think it worked really well. Ollie is evil Ranger. Great idea. The execution didn't quite land for me personally, but I don't hate it overall. Javi losing his arm worked a lot better than I thought they were going to do it. That was great. Izzy and Fern with their relationship, that's a decent storyline throughout the season here. Ion, him struggling to lose his best friend again was a really good emotional point in the show. And then Zato, once again, being a sacrifice for good. Kind of repetitive because he's already done it, but him doing it again, whatever. Him becoming a Morphin Master was crazy, and I did like. Billy shows up. He's this good elder figure for this Ranger team. Mick comes in as Mick. Great to see Kelvin Henderson in this. If this is the last thing we see of this continuity, but it can't be. But just in case it was, great to see him in it. He's done so much for the franchise. Seeing him in this was great. Let me work through. That's all the Rangers, right? So that's all the Rangers. So that was great. This has to be leading into something more. I think we get a movie. That's my guess, is a movie. I'm going to guess an MMPR-focused movie that sends off the franchise. I would just really hope that we see more of other teams and other series within the show in it to some degree. But, I'm not optimistic about a proper send-off for the show. I'm really not. I feel like it's going to be meh, but the only way I can stomach a meh is if the reason it's meh is because it doesn't showcase everything, but it just showcases MMPR. I can stomach an MMPR-focused send-off because it's how it started. I can live with that. A full circle I can live with. So overall, I'm going to give it I'm gonna give it like a 7 out of 10. I think it was good. I do think it was good. It's just some parts of it felt stretched out. Like I said, it felt like a 2-season premiere and a 2-part premiere and a 3-part finale put together and then stretched out into 10 episodes instead of 5. Maybe it should have been 7 episodes in terms of how it felt, because 5 would have been too short, but 10 did seem a little long for what they were doing, because sometimes it just felt like they were just going to places and doing things, which is what a show does. But like they were just going to places and doing things for filler, and like sometimes it just felt like it didn't have quite as big as an impact. But I did like it overall, because I'm struggling to find specific things to complain about, which is a good sign. I think this did work really well. Luckily, there's no characters I really have to complain about. Like I said, Ollie as an Evil Ranger fell a little flat for me, but I did like it overall, especially a concept. Concept, it was great. Yeah, that's my feelings about this. I thought this was going to be a review of the send-off of Power Rangers, and it just doesn't seem like that. Or send-off of this continuity of Power Rangers, and it doesn't feel like that anymore. We'll see what they do with Power Rangers going forward. My current guess is send-off movie to this continuity, and maybe it's not door closed. We never ever see it again. But in terms of this is the send-off of it being the main focus, and then we start new continuity. I've heard rumors of animation being involved. I don't know. I will say this. I wouldn't mind a kids show, cartoon, and live action, maybe more adult focused. And I don't want like rated R Power Rangers, but maybe PG-13 Power Rangers. I did like the 2017 movie. It's just there was some tone clashes every now and then, and the aesthetic of it did not look good. Like the suits didn't look good. The Zords were too much. I think if that movie aesthetically looked better and they scaled back the darkness, and I mean literally the visual darkness, I think it would have performed better, and maybe we keep seeing that movie. But the cast was so good and worked so good together. I think if they look more on that one and build off of that, at least some of the core concepts of it, I think it could work really well, but we'll see what they do going forward. But yeah, overall I liked it. I would love to hear what you guys thought of it. I absolutely love Power Rangers, so this was a good day for me to just sit here all day and watch Power Rangers. Huge win. A lot of love for it, but let me know what you think. Do you think this is the last we see of this continuity? What do you think they do with the Zordon lead? Are you expecting a movie, another series? This is it, and we just started a new continuity. Tell me what your thoughts are. Like this video, please. Subscribe for more to come. I'll probably do some more tier lists of Power Ranger stuff. Might make a couple more videos soon about Power Rangers. Love the franchise. It's my favorite franchise, probably period. I love Power Rangers. This was still good to see. I did enjoy myself. Tell me what you thought. And as always, keep gaming.